Hello, I'm Kads, and welcome to today's video. You guys can probably guess what we're doing today based off the title, the thumbnail, etc. And of course, the blue hue of the portal, meaning that it is once again time for 2x Ancients. Now this one is going to be a little bit different than usual. I have done this once in the past before as we load the champion chase here, but in this case, I'm in need. I'm in need of some food champions. I'm basically out of non-void rares, so I need a lot more chickens than usual. And combined with a couple other things we'll talk about in a bit, we will explain what's going on that's so special. Now, one thing to highlight here is that I underestimated the champion chase requirement for the rare. It's up there at 3650, which we have seen before, I think, for the Emic fusion. And granted, that is a void legendary, which is a lot better potentially than Bambus. Being a non-void legendary. Even so, there's still the opportunity to have gained points via just getting the epics from the fusion. And so you can see here that I'm already at 1,000 points, and 200 and something of that is mystery shards because there is a champion training event going on. But 750 of that was me summoning 3 of the fusion epics, especially today after I got the last like petrify rock root or whatever from the artifact enhancement. So 750 of that was just fusing epics from the fusion, which is helpful. And so it helps offset that, and it brought us a lot closer. So effectively, once you account for that 750, it brings it down to 2,900, which is only 400 more than the normal standard 2,500 for the rare. So it is higher, admittedly, but they've definitely gone up and down over the past few months. So I don't think this is the new normal by any means, because we've had plenty this year in particular at 2,500. So don't sound the alarm bells just yet. But nonetheless, just be prepared for stuff like this to happen in the future. But, you know, Bambus is probably a fusion that most people are going to skip, so it's not as bad compared to some other milestones we've had in the past. Now, the other thing to note, of course, is the first legendary tome has been pushed up away from 3,000 up to 4,500. However, the second legendary tome is still static there at 5,500. So it's capped to the same amount, but it is going to be harder to get the legendary tome. Now, as I mentioned here, you can see that we are in absolute dire need of non-void rares, or just rares in general, because I do use them as chickens to feed my higher tier champions, and we have 5 right now. So we're definitely going to be pulling a little bit more than usual. I did this once before, like I said, for Valkyrie when there was a 10x during a 2x Ancient, so we pulled all the way out to the 5,500. Unfortunately, I didn't even get a legendary in that session at all, but that's just how the cookie crumbles. So nonetheless, we are going for 5,500 once again. Partially one, because I do need some chickens, but also, as you can see here, we have a ton of ancient shards. We have not seen a guaranteed champion in a long time, probably over a year at this point, maybe not that long, but we haven't seen a guaranteed one from ancient shards for a long time. The last one was, I think, void. And so I just have an abundance of shards, and so I am in the mood to burn some of them more than usual. So we're definitely going to be doing that today. But while we're here, let's take a look at the overall shard count. So we have 610 on the ancients, 283 on the voids, 7 on the primals, and then 63 on the sacreds. If we take a quick look at the mercy tracker, we can see that we are 58 into ancient, so we're pretty far away. However, if we don't get a legendary, worst case, we get closer to mercy, which sets us up great for a future POGO event, or pull one get one, or a double legendary event. I prefer to call them POGOs. With the odds are good that either one of those options can happen. So we don't get a legendary here, we might get it during, or we will get it during the POGO, or it's just 2x ancients, 1 in 100 chance we could get a legendary today. We'll see what happens. Champions we're looking for has not changed. I guess it won't change until we get one of them. But for legendaries, we're looking for Poison Exploder, Valkyrie, Molly, or another duplicate Rotos, so I can make a +2 super powerhouse Rotos. And for epics, we're just looking for 1 copy of a Sylvan Watcher. That way I can finish out that Faction Guardians and make it 10 out of 10 for the epics. So without further ado, let's get into the shard pulls. We've got some cash, we've got some space, and hopefully we get some pretty decent luck today. So let's get it popping here. First 10 pop, 2x Ancients. Here we go. Let's see lots of epics. Hopefully, we've got 2 so far. We got Seas and Rockbreaker. Make that 3. Triple, 820. Love to see that. Seas, I think, is a daily login reward champion. He hits decently hard from what I've seen and heard. Couple of turn meter thing, puts himself under a veil. Some more turn meter boosting there. Increased attack on himself, decent. I don't think a lot of people need him, and you have to play for like 1 to 2 years before you get him, so he might not be the most useful epic by the time you get him, but nonetheless he is worthy mention. Rockbreaker, pretty cool, decent Faction Wars champion. He does have a affinity friendly placing and provoke, so it's not a hit, so he can place it on anyone, 3-turn cooldown, and it puts a counterattack on himself. And when he does that, he can also increase his defense by up to 20%, so he just gets a little bit more tanky. So great for Faction Wars. And also, he just has a inbuilt chance to just reduce 50% of the damage inflicted. Alika is very popular with Scratch plays because he does love her. She does hit really, really hard. In fairness, she's one of the hardest hitting epics in the game, but she also has this Basher mini Warlord ability here where it can place enemy skills on cooldown for 2 turns. Granted, she is Force Affinity, not Void, so weak hits means it won't land on certain affinities, but nonetheless, still a decent shout out for Alika. Let's keep it going with the next 10 pop. I guess at this point, it's not going to be as useful to get some of the fusion rares, but if people pulled on earlier days, because today's Sunday, the last day, but if people pulled on earlier days, you could have gotten a fusion rare along the way, which would have just been helpful. For Jurgen here, not much to say. I think he has Provoke and then Decrease Attack on the A1. Not that amazing of a champion. In Default Center, I don't even know what he does, so that kind of tells you that he's probably not that good. AoE here, attacks from an enemy, it might be an AoE if you kill someone, decrease defense, single target. Yeah, not much going on there, so let's keep it going. I guess Ogren Jailer there is a shout out. He's one of the hardest hitting single target rares in the game, but again, he's probably not going to be the champion you're going to be using. Oh, is this an all blue? No, we're saved. Oh, double saved at the end. Halfreys the Tusked is one of the few Skinwalker revivers, so definitely a great champion for Faction Wars. Obviously, if you have Mighty Uko, you can probably do that job a lot better. Granted, less sufficiently on auto, but nonetheless, Halfreys can be the guy, especially in a regen set. Terror Beast, not that amazing. He's one of the annoying champions from Ice Golem stage 20, or I guess any Spirit Affinity stage, where he puts up that nasty reflect damage, which just makes your damage dealer kill themselves. But when you use them, it's not as effective just because your champions don't have as much health as enemy waves. Honorable mention here to Sentinel, who's one of the best provoke A1s in the game, so he's really great for Magma Dragon if you just need a provoker, and that's the one job he can do. I do run that for my teams just because it's pretty simple and it's a lot easier. And unless you have something like a War Chief or someone who's a better provoker, like Bivald of the Thorn, for example. Honorable mention also to Judge, who's one of the best Secret Room rares in the game, who has relatively high, I guess you can't see it here, but he has high base attack, decent multipliers, and then this ability here, which hits all enemies twice, and then he gets turn meter for each critical hit. So if you hit 4 enemies twice and they all crit, that's 80% turn meter, more or less another turn, which can take him into the A1, where he can just deal more damage and potentially more stuns if you run him in a stun set. But what notably works well here is that his passive just has a chance to place the big version of a bunch of different debuffs. It's not guaranteed, 30% chance, but it's on each hit. And so he's hitting everyone twice, and then he's getting a lot more turns because this fills turn meter. So you have a chance to just get free decrease attack, decrease defense, decrease speed, decrease accuracy. So pretty decent, and definitely one of the best rares for Secret Rooms. So we're sitting above 3,000 points, so we still have a decent ways to go, 2,500 till that second legendary tome. So let's keep it going here. Next 10 pop is going to result in, we're honestly probably due an all blue at some point, and this might be the one. No, saved by the bell here. I did get 2 fusion rares here, Longsword Torx, who I think I already have all 4 copies of him. And then Petrify, I guess I can skip Spider, but I probably want to do that anyways. I don't know, I'll have to see. But nonetheless, 2 fusion rares. Infernal Baroness, I think the only thing about her is that she does have an AoE on the A1, so she can be useful in a stun set for Demon Spawn Faction Wars. But other than that, really not much going on in her kit. Next 10 pop, here we go. Let's see what this one is going to yield. Again, I do think we're probably due for an all blue soon. We've been toying with it. I guess we've been losing 1 epic per 10 pop. There it is. There's the all blue. Not much to say there. I guess Diabolist can be kind of useful in Faction Wars. I've seen her run in stun sets because she has a couple of AoE abilities. But generally speaking, she's just kind of a food champion. Although I tend to book her with copies of herself for CVC. Doom Priest, one of the best epic passives in the game, where it'll just remove 1 random debuff every time she takes a turn and heal everyone by 7.5% of their max HP. So really good in a relentless set if you can get it on her, and just good for healing and keeping your team affinity friendly for Demon Lord Clan Boss, or just keeping debuffs off your team. Abyssal, honorable mention again, one of the best Secret Room rare, specifically for the rare Spirit Affinity one. AoE on the A1, that's usually the theme for champions or for rare champions that can work with a stun set. set, but he also places block buffs, so it'll prevent the enemy waves from placing buffs if they do get turns. Also has a mini heal here on a 3-turn cooldown, and then he has the increased defense and increased attack on all allies. Granted, it's the weak versions. He is a rare after all, but nonetheless, it's still kind of useful if everyone happens to be stunned and you kind of need him to do something else. Looks like we've hit a bit of a dry spell, but it's okay because we're going to turn it around right here on this 10 pop, starting off hot with an epic Zargala. Decent champion, kind of a debuffer you can use for faction wars. Oh, there we go. 4 epics. We called it. Turned it around. You can use her for faction wars, decrease defense on a, 4-turn cooldown. So not the best, but she does have a 3-hitter, so it can deal some damage. So she's a good champion to be that hybrid, high accuracy or decently high accuracy for faction wars at least. But you can also build it for damage. And then if you do kill someone with the A2 here on a 2-turn cooldown, then she instantly activates this AoE again. So kind of like a Harima type ability. So she can kind of be useful if you do build her for damage. Crypt Witch can hit decently hard, but I don't recommend building her. And speaking of hitting hard, Siege Hulk, a beast of a champion, massive fellow, but he has really, really good multipliers, high base attack for an epic. He also gives himself increased attack before placing AoE decreased defense on a 3-turn cooldown. So very, very powerful for Ogryn Tribe's faction wars. But other than that, he's just a really hard hitting epic champion. I think this, he gives himself increased crit rate and increased crit damage on a 3-turn cooldown. So this is only a single target attack or single enemy attack, but nonetheless, he still gives himself buffs. So you can potentially run him with lower crit rate than 100%. And then A1, he can decrease turn meter if they're under the debuffs that he places. So decrease defense and or decrease speed. Old Hermit Yorg, one of the best in my particular faction wars reviver. And so he can revive 2 random allies with 60% HP and 40% turn meter and a perfect fail. So they can't be dropped immediately back down, granted on a 5-turn cooldown. Then he has the Arbiter Gore Grab ability here with increased attack and turn meter fill by 20%. So good arena champion, potentially if you're in the early game and you happen to get him before you get Arbiter. And then, of course, in the end game, really useful for faction wars as a reviver. Trucking right along, we're at 4,800 points, so 700 to go. So 2 epics and a 10 pop will do it. Not looking good. Okay, we've got 1 and 2. And nope, I lied because we need 700 points. So 3 epics would have done it. A lordly legionary, really old school champion who's kind of, I guess, like really early game good for like a Fire Knight heal reduction on a double hitter and then decrease speed with a little bit of a turn meter drop. Reflect damage as well if you're taking the strategy where you let the Fire Knight hit you with your team with reflect damage, and then each reflect damage counts as a hit, so that's 5 hits on the shield. But definitely not used in anything in the modern era. Wuji, very, very squishy champion, but I think she has AoE block buffs on a 4-turn cooldown. Not 100% chance, so you're probably better off with like Deliana if you played when she was there, or of course Ugo, one of the best epics for block buffs. So at this point, we're at 5,300, and the smart thing to do would just be to pull one at a time just to make sure that we get, whenever the epic happens, then we can just kind of stop there. But again, I have a need for a bunch of rares, so I don't mind getting more rares here. So we're going to do one last 10 pop. In theory, this should get us enough points. I guess we could stop regardless, just because I can do the rest with mystery shards and champion training. Okay, there's our 1 epic, and it looks like we get no legendaries this session, which is fine. That is one of the possibilities, so we are much better set off in the future for a POGO event, so I will definitely take that. Carlinia or Candle Girl, I forgot what she does, honestly. Weak version of Strengthen and decreased attack, not 100% chance. Not the best, probably not going to be used. Gore Grab, we did mention him earlier. One of the, used to be one of the best, pre-Arbiter champions in the game. Increased attack, turn meter fill, speed aura as well, in arena specifically, and then he can revive on a 5-turn cooldown. However, he will use this as a heal if people are low, so be wary of that. On auto for faction wars, he might not do it perfectly on time, and he might just waste it. Same thing in arena. I guess he's similar to Arbiter in that way, where she can use her revive as just a turn meter fill, and she'll do that on auto. Drake, don't call me Drakeomorph, as some others would say. Not much in his kit. I think he got buffed a few months ago, where he can place AoE, decrease speed, and decrease accuracy if this attack crits, but he's still not really that useful, so not much to say on him. Okay, so here we are, 90 Ancient Shards later, 2nd Legendary Tome acquired, and unfortunately no Legendary, but we did talk about this possibility, so now we are way closer to, get out here pop-ups, we are way closer to Mercy, meaning that once the next POGO event comes around, which could be relatively soon, because the last POGO event we had was Sacred Shards, which we did skip. So this could put me in actually this does put me in a great position. Double checking our math here. Whoa, way overshot. Oh, right, that last 10 pop was a bunch of epics. But actually, we can double check on the Mercy tracker here. Look at it again. So updated the values here, 148 towards Mercy, all the way up from 58 before. And so now we are 52 shards until we enter Mercy, and then guaranteed within the next 20 shards. So 72 worst case, we will be guaranteed a legendary. So we are in a great position for the next Ancient POGO event. So of course that did provide the last Void rare for the fusion, and like I said, we did pull the extra Petrify from this. And honestly, taking a look at the Spider tournament, I can just kind of chill. I don't really need to farm a Spider at the moment. My focus has shifted back to Fire Knight as far as out of fusion dungeon farming. So I might honestly just go out till the Ancient Shard at 1800 and call it there, and just not even go for the extra rare. Although I wouldn't mind the extra chicken honestly in this situation. But I think I'm going to be good for now because we did just pull 90 Ancient Shards after all. But the other thing to note here is that effectively the fusion is done for me. So we have the other two ready to go. I guess a bonus one there. That's just going to be chicken. So with the addition of these two, now we can fuse the last epic. Although I'm probably just going to wait until CVC. Champion Chase is now maxed out, so there's no value in finishing him today or tonight just to get an extra points towards nothing. So we're not going to worry about that. Obviously, I didn't expect to get an extra fusion rare, so that wasn't really part of my calculations here, unfortunately. So we're probably going to wait until CVC to fuse him to get that 30,000 points, and then I'll just keep working on champion training while leveling up the last epic here. Well, all right, so that's going to do it for today's video. Plarium finally got me to pull more shards than normal, at least to get the second legendary tome, but also to get, the rare champions and potentially get closer to Mercy, which we ended up doing by not getting legendary, unfortunately. Let me know in the comment section down below if you guys are more fortunate than myself and if you got some cool epics or cool legendaries along the way. As always, if you enjoyed this video, then be sure to hit that like button down below and also subscribe to the channel for more content just like this one. Thanks for watching and have a good one.